My help.
Hallelujah. That's right. That's right.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Thank you, Father.
Hallelujah. Bless you.
All of my help. All of my help coming from Yahweh.
Hallelujah.
Giving honor to the Spirit of Yahweh today.
Bless you.
Thanking Him for life, health, and strength. Thanking Him for another day
Yes.
that He's allowed us to see, and we praise Him. For those of you in attendance today,
Thank you.
thank you, Yahweh, for Bishop and for Mother.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Missed her last Sunday, but she's here today. Thank Yahweh for Yahweh is good all the time.
Hallelujah.
So happy to see my dear brother, Brother Wallace, today with us.
Hallelujah.
Haven't seen him in a while. Thank Yahweh for him. Hallelujah.
We bless you.
So happy to have our guests in the back today, and for those of you in attendance.
All right.
Yahweh is good
All the time.
all the time. Confirmation of the Spirit is an awesome thing. And when we're all on the same page, it's interesting that one should never seem amazed when you hear words that fall in line with what your spirit has already been given.
Yes. Yeah.
So happy this morning that Yahweh led Minister Butler to elaborate and to share and to exalt on those who are with us
Hallelujah.
that we see every day. Those who have fallen on hard times. Life will certainly deal some awesome blows.
Hallelujah.
And we thank Yahweh for all of you in attendance today.
Yeah.
I've been under the weather all week long. And please forgive me for coughing. I'm trying to suppress it as best I can. I've been out of the house all week. Yesterday was my first day out.
Hallelujah.
My truck didn't move from my house since last Sunday. And I thank Yahweh that I'm standing here today and here with you and being a part of this worship experience. Thank Yahweh for Minister Belcher. Beautiful job.
Hallelujah.
Wonderful Sunday school teacher. Awesome. Awesome in his faithfulness to Yahweh. Praise Yahweh for him and his companion, working hard here at this assembly. Praise Yahweh for my dear brother, Elorano Green, who is faithful and has done just a masterful job over the years with scripture lesson and worship on Friday night. Giving him an enormous amount of wisdom and understanding in teaching Yahweh's word, and we thank Yahweh so much for him. Praise Yahweh for Ella Mabin in the back. He's been a mentor for me down through the years, and certainly happy to have him with us today. His lovely niece, Sister Glenda, hanging in there. And our website pioneer, standing on the wall, Sister Kim Joyner. Thank Yahweh for Kim, for that wonderful and awesome ministry. Someone had asked me just this week, when are you guys going to get up and start doing video streaming? I said, well, we got an HD camera. It's got to find some folk who are willing to take on that ministry and become dedicated to it, and certainly we can get it off the ground and running. So I'm hoping that Yahweh will lay it on someone's heart soon to begin to start that ministry. And this will certainly be another extension of what's going on with our website and the YouTube that Sister Kim and Minister Butler has started, and certainly has been a blessing to a lot of people. And I thank Yahweh for that. I hope I can make it through this morning without coughing all over the place. But if I'm not able, we certainly have enough ministers here today to continue to carry it on. Yahweh's good.
Hallelujah.
All the time. Satan said, stay home today. Stay in the bed. Maybe I should have, but I believe Yahweh has something to say. And I want to share with you today. If you would turn with me to the book of Romans, chapter 12. Yahweh's good.
All the time.
All the time. Romans chapter 12, we're going to look today at the 9th verse and read down to verse 21. And I also want to reflect a little bit this morning on one of my favorite Psalms, 34th Psalm of David. And I want to concentrate on these two passages today. Paul had an insight unlike any other human being I've ever come in contact with, or any readings of any individual who's walked the earth. Yahweh used him in such a capacity when he was on earth that it still to this day just amazes me how the word of Yahweh touches millions upon millions upon millions upon millions of people through generations and generations. And the foundation of Yahweh's word stands sure. Its foundation was built by the apostles, and today we are standing on the word that Yahweh has left through his son Yahshua.
Hallelujah.
One of the greatest attributes that we can have as human beings, not just as believers, is love for one another.
Hallelujah.
In life, we can get so caught up in the hustle and bustle of life that we forget for a second. We're in our cars, and Minister Butler certainly touched on it this morning beautifully. You travel along and you think about your own personal humble beginnings. And I remember, even as an educator for so many years, I used to hear the colloquial term that was penned by some who had gone through school, went through college, and got degrees, and they came back and they would voice these sentiments to the students. And maybe some of you are familiar with this passage when I share it with you. I got mine, you got yours to get. And it was such a statement that it forced you to take serious evaluation. But even in that statement, which is certainly a loaded statement, there is a message that should go even deeper.
Hallelujah.
Love covers a multitude of sins, as the word says.
Yes.
And in life, I think humble beginnings they're a blessing, because they teach you and give you a barometer and a foundation to build upon, to never forget from whence you come.
Yes.
I've seen and observed many stories over the years and watched many homeless and many celebrities who've risen to great status in life. I think oftentimes of Mr. Tyler Perry, who has certainly made his mark in the world, who at one time was a homeless person, and now if he's not there, approaching a billionaire. And you think about the channels and journeys that we all travel and we go through life. Ones who are often forgotten, so many talented people who never get an opportunity to really express themselves or show their gifts, gone too soon.
That's right.
Lives cut off because of circumstances, situations, perils,
Hallelujah.
persecution, tribulations,
Oh, yeah.
the cards that they were dealt. Babies who've come here who at one time mothers were considering aborting them,
All right.
who come into this world and ultimately become great leaders and change the whole scope of the land because of their contribution. Such a world in which we live, where there are so many turns and twists.
Hallelujah.
A world where Satan, in his last great stand, is trying desperately to grab as many souls as he can.
That's right.
Amen.
Through distraction, through temptation,
Yes.
through greed, through lust, the desires of the flesh,
That's right.
and to take man's focus off of Yahweh and to send him into a whirlwind
Amen.
of just focusing on the flesh and being concerned about oneself. And this whole thing about respecting one another and loving one another becomes a conversation that's put on the shelf.
Hallelujah.
Respect and loving one another. Paul gives us a beautiful lesson today from the 12th chapter, of Romans. And starting at the 9th verse, he says, love must be sincere.
Yes.
Hate what is evil.
Mm-hmm.
Cling to what is good.
All right.
Be devoted to one another in brotherly love.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Honor one another above yourselves.
All right.
How's it possible to love somebody above yourself? What kind of mind is that?
Man of Yahweh.
Never be lacking in zeal.
Yeah.
That's hard to find now, zeal. Hard to find zeal in the church.
Amen.
Hard to find folk excited about Yahweh and worshiping Yahweh. It's just almost like a mundane kind of routine now. We have to struggle. You got to beg folk now to come to church.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get on the phone and beg them to come to church. Full pastor has to prong the sheet along. Sister Margaret was telling me this morning as we were riding to Assembly. I thought about it. She mentioned a sheet. There was about 1,500 sheep. And one little sheep got out of line with his direction, went to the edge of a cliff, fell to his death. And the other 1,499 sheep followed him. And all of them died. And you think about sheep being described as being dumb animals who need a shepherd, who need guidance and direction. It's just like truth and a lie.
Oh, yeah.
Yahweh can show you the way to the light, but you got to follow it. He said in his word, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge.
Yes.
And why they're destroyed for the lack of knowledge is because they rejected it.
All right.
He went on to say, since you reject the knowledge, therefore I will also reject you.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about a lie versus the truth, they can't stay in company with each other. One has to leave.
Oh, yeah.
You ever notice that when truth comes, a lie gets real uncomfortable?
Amen.
You ever notice when you share truth with people, they get real uncomfortable?
Hallelujah.
Isn't it amazing when you go to a courtroom and you watch a skillful lawyer cross-examining and questioning the individual on the stand? And they may ask the same question 3 or 4 different ways just to see if you're going to come up with the same answer. And if you ain't listening, and sometime he's going to twist you up and that lie that you telling is going to come out.
All right.
Same thing applies to Yahweh's word when we are understanding what our responsibilities are as believers and human beings. I want you to leave here today with an urgency in your heart to make a difference this week in somebody's life.
Hallelujah.
Don't allow this week to be a week where it's all about you, yourself, and I. But allow yourself to be a blessing to somebody else.
All right.
I've heard stories over the years about people who have popped up out of nowhere. Interesting stories. People who may look a little strange. And people say, I turned around, I was talking to this lady, I was talking to this man, and I went back in the car and looked through my rearview mirror and they were gone.
Yeah. Come on.
They might even describe the individual as being somewhat pale looking, or yes, they appeared to be human and flesh and all, but it was something unique and strange about them that I couldn't quite put my finger on. You know what I'm talking about? And it's like sometimes they were in the appearance of someone homeless. And sometimes Yahweh puts situations right in front of you to see just how you would respond.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Now, granted, beloved, we have charlatans, opportunists, who are masterful, who are full-time faking homeless people. I never forget, I was on Virginia Beach not too long ago. And this guy looked every bit of the part of somebody homeless. He had his sign, he had his broken down worn shoes, and scraggly beard. He looked the part. It was getting dark, time to I guess to cut off from the day's work. Went to the side and got his little card, his little makeshift cardboard sign, this little chair on the side, picked up his little bag, and I saw him walking toward the parking lot. So I stood there for a moment just to watch him to see if he was going to get maybe someone else to help him, give him a little change. He got in his van, it was better than the truck that I was driving. I said, what's wrong with this picture? I've seen some who out there limping, dragging their leg up and down with the car. And miraculously, when the day is over, healing comes. Healing comes, and I see them, that limp is now gone. That cane that I had no longer seems to be of any need. I pull that to my side and I'm walking with it, and you walking better than me. Well, lets me know, of course, Satan will take advantage of any situation. You cannot ignore the fact that Yahshua said, the poor you're going to have with you always. Yahshua told us to look out for him. Didn't he?
Yes.
Because we never know in what way we're going to fall when it comes to harm's way. But I say that to say this because this was written over 2,000 years ago. Let's keep reading. Let me start back at the 9th verse again. Love must be sincere. Romans chapter 12, verse 9. Hate what is evil. Cling to what is good. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spiritual fervor, serving Yahweh. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with Yahweh's people who are in need. Whose people?
Yahweh.
Now, everybody ain't Yahweh's people.
Come on.
Everybody who tell you to be blessed ain't Yahweh's child.
Amen.
People can wear the cloak of religion and Christianity, whatever you want to call it, when it's profitable for them.
Mm-hmm.
But let's keep reading. Practice hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice. Mourn with those who mourn. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Be willing to associate with people of low position.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the homeless brother and sister? Be willing to associate with them?
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Well, they can't come around me because they smelling. They ain't washed their hygiene. They probably haven't washed in weeks. Paul tells us to be willing to associate with those of low position.
Amen.
So what kind of mindset should a believer have when they come in contact with someone in low position. Let's keep reading. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of low position. Do not be conceited. Well, I got mine, you got yours to get. Do not repay anyone for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everybody. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone.
Oh, yes.
Do not take revenge, my friends, but leave room for Yahweh's wrath.
Hallelujah.
For it is written, it is mine to avenge. I will repay,
Oh, yeah.
saith Yahweh. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. Do not be overcome with evil,
Yes.
but overcome evil with good.
Hallelujah.
There's a little saying that I used to hear every week from a very dear friend of mine, Deacon Rufus Banks, who is a member of First Baptist Buke Street, and he and I served in capacity of colleagues at Northview High School when we were part of the school division. I was a dean of students, and Mr. Banks was assistant principal at the time. And he would always come out every morning with me. And Northview was the kind of school that will make you or break you. And every day you woke up, it was a new adventure. And Mr. Banks would always say to me in the morning when we start our day, he'll say, buddy, let's go out and do some good. He'll take that hand and swing that hand out from the bottom. He'll sway that hand, and he said, let's go do some good. And before he could come out his mouth good enough, fight broke out on one floor, something else going on another floor. So it was never a dull moment at Northview High School. Wasn't the kind of job where you went to work in the morning where you lay back and sit in your office and cross your legs on top of it, or put your foot up on the desk. You were hopping and rocking and rolling from the time you got in to the time the little dollars left. And them little darlings kept you busy. But I think about the mindset and the thought behind what he was saying. Let's do some good.
Oh, yeah.
Each day was an opportunity to change somebody's life. Some kid who, for whatever reason, chose to act out with poor behavior. Ultimately, that would disrupt the instructional environment and causing students not be able to learn. Having to be removed and dealt with in whatever capacity that situation required. And it was always my premise as a dean of students and even as an assistant principal when I was handling excuse me, discipline with students, that they would not be repeat offenders. I would always say that this will be your last time in my office, because we're going to get down to why you did what you did and figure out what you need to do to not come back here again. Then when you got to the crux of what was going on in that student's life, maybe at home, issues, problems, poor self-esteem, things that would impede them from becoming the individuals that they were destined to become. And so oftentimes when I looked at many of those who chose the life of drug dealing, I knew a lot of drug dealers in school,
All right.
both at Maury and at Northview. Even ran across some wannabes in middle school. And most of these guys and young ladies oftentimes were brilliant, very smart, but chose this lifestyle to get quick money and to do whatever they need to do to survive, as they call it. But it wasn't good what they were doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I tried desperately during the time that I was in that position to reach out and give scenarios and other alternatives that would change their lives and move them in a more positive direction. Some took heed, some didn't. I remember one young man who I saw one Thursday in the office at Northview High School. And he pulled out a roll of money wrapped up that could choke a cow. And we talked for a while. And he told me, he said, Mr. Woodbury, you're a good man. I appreciate you taking time to talk to me. But I've chosen this lifestyle, and this is what I do. And I said to him, I said, you know, man, there's three things that separate you and me from each other. He said, what's that? I said, well, first of all, I sleep good at night. I'm never looking over my shoulder.
That's right.
And I'm never worried about somebody coming looking for me. He thanked me. Smart young man. Brilliant. Went back and looked at his record in elementary school and middle school. This kid made all A's and B's, mostly A's. Became a drug dealer. That Thursday evening, he left my office. I tell this story often, because when I think about doing good and trying to do good, and Minister Butler was on point this morning. I came in Monday morning at Northview. I was starting my day, and there were kids in the hallway by the cafeteria crying. I didn't know what was going on, so on my way to my office, I was stopped by the senior security officer, Mr. Parker. And he would always say, Mr. Woodbury, things are getting worse and worse. He pulled me to the side and he said, your boy gone. Not only was Mr. Parker a security officer, he was also a mortician. And He came to me that Monday morning. He said, "Your boy gone." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said he was killed over the weekend. Russian roulette style. They put a bullet in the back of his head and a bullet on the side of his temple. Gone. And the ones that killed him, were actually at the funeral. It was said. Came to the casket to look down and make sure he was dead. And I thought about the good that I tried to do. Life that was taken. But I didn't stop with that young man. I continued my crusade at each school that I went to, and even now. Away from that process, but still coming in contact with people, there is a mindset the believer has to have when it comes to dealing with people.
Amen.
If you wake up every morning with the mindset, today I'm going to do some good in somebody's life. I'm going to touch somebody's life along the way. Whether it be a child, an ethnicity, color of skin means absolutely nothing. Let me tell you something. We all bleed the same color blood.
Amen.
It's still red.
That's right.
Whether it come out of a white man, a black man, a red man, a yellow man, it is still red.
Amen.
As long as Satan can keep us blinded with the attitude about me, myself, and I, and not even thinking about how you can touch the lives of somebody else and change someone's life. Love and respect for each other is something we have to work at.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a marriage.
Come on.
I don't know any marriage that's perfect.
Come on.
I've never seen a perfect couple. And if they say they never had a disagreement, they're lying.
Oh, yeah.
Sure is.
They can get out in public and look the part. Say, man, I ain't never seen two people so in love. He can't get enough of her and she can't get enough of him. They're holding hands in public and they're kissing each other. They just can't get enough of each other. At least they look that way.
Oh, yeah.
I once heard somebody say marriage is not for punks. You can't be a punk and be married.
Amen.
Okay.
Be a man.
Because you got to learn how to give and how to take.
That's right.
You know the interesting thing about assembly and folk in the church,
Oh, yeah.
if you ever want to see just how much you've grown, think about somebody in the church that get on your everlasting nerve. And don't be so religious and so spiritually filled that you don't understand anything I'm saying.
Come on.
Oh, I ain't never had no problem with anybody in the church, you hypocrite.
Hello.
Somebody who pluck your everlasting nerve, your last one. I ain't never before had a last nerve. Is that something with a last nerve? He plucked my last nerve. She plucked my last. I just can't stand so and so, so and so. And then when you think about this mindset and see, church is a place like a hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Amen.
We come here to worship Yahweh, but we also come here to get repaired.
Come on. Oh, yeah. Hallelujah.
Because there are a whole lot of bits going on in this flesh that needs addressing all the time. If you walking around and you think you're perfect,
Come on.
hello,
Come on now.
Satan got your number.
Come on.
And you think you don't hurt nobody's feelings by your snappy attitude,
Amen.
your short demeanor? You're sadly mistaken.
Hallelujah.
When you think about loving and respecting one another, this is something Paul wrote here. But for some reason in the church, we seem to stay away from those kind of sermons. We don't talk about them too often.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're going to leave this assembly, and just by chance, you might pass a homeless person. Just might pass. Your car might even come up to the stoplight. You know how we do.
That's right.
We get busy when we get to that light, and you're praying and hoping that your truck or your car don't stop at the light. And you got to address that person because you don't want to make eye contact with them. You are hoping that you run through the light, or somebody else pulls up in front of you. And for many folk, you love to be in the long line because they got to walk all the way down the line to get to you. I must be preaching this morning.
Go ahead.
And oftentimes, something says to you, you're trying to figure out if it's the spirit or the spirit.
All right.
They say, give him something.
All right.
Well, somebody said, well, I don't want to be giving my hard-earned money to somebody who's just going to go out there and get something to drink or something to smoke. You don't know what they're going to do.
Amen.
But what the word lets us know is that we have an obligation. Let me see if I read that wrong.
All right.
Got an obligation.
Be devoted to one another in brotherly love.
Mm-hmm.
Honor one another above yourselves.
That's right.
Now consider that being you out there on the corner.
Oh, yeah.
Amen.
How would you want somebody to treat you?
That's right.
Don't lose your job and about to lose everything. You got to go out on the street to ask for help.
All right.
A lot of folk who are homeless are highly educated, college degree holding people.
Amen.
Fell on hard times. Went through a university, holders of degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were to take a moment to take them into Panero's or McDonald's or Burger King or Arby's or Hardee's and sit down and buy them a cup of coffee, sausage biscuit, sit down for about 15 minutes and talk to this person. And watch them begin to use words that you don't even know the meaning of. And you go, oh. And they begin to tell you how life had dealt them some bad cards. If you helped one person a day for a month, how many people is that? At least 30 people. At least 30 people whose life you've impacted. They don't know you, don't know your name, don't know your family, don't know your church, don't know nothing about you. But you have 30 people in the course of a month. Who's really rejoicing? You or heaven? Yahweh says, sometime I even send angels. I said earlier in my presentation that there are people, and all of us have had them. You keep living in this world, you're going to find there's some things you can't explain. There's some things you can't put a handle on.
Amen.
Come on.
There are some people who cross your path that Yahweh has sent,
Hallelujah.
Amen.
and the angels. They don't say a whole lot, but it's something about them in their presence, and I call it the smile from heaven, because you know it's different and unique because it bothers you after they're gone.
Amen.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
It's like, man, where'd that person go? You look in your mirror, you look behind, and they're gone. And they smile in such a way, and if you were smart enough to listen to the leading of the Spirit and you did something to help them, and they said, thank you. Thank you. And where I'm trying to get you to get today is, even in our struggles to walk this journey, to work out our own soul salvation with fear and trembling, to understand it's the last days and all the things that we preach and teach about, there is a part of humanity and the human spirit that's being completely ignored and kicked to the curb. And that's love for one another.
Hallelujah.
Respect for one another. You know, when he says here, be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everybody.
Oh, yeah.
If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live in peace with everyone.
Hallelujah.
And there are some folk that will cause you to want to curse. I love this part right here because Paul lets you know it's still in you. See, a lot of folks think that once you get saved, a lot of folks think that once you get saved, all the curse words gone.
You hitting it this morning.
He preaching.
If you were cursing before you got saved,
Temptation.
don't let nobody fool you.
Hallelujah.
It ain't like I forgot how to say the F word,
That's right.
or the S word,
Yeah.
or the MF word.
Hallelujah.
Preach.
Come on.
Somebody be slam blamming you out with words, and you come back and say, hey, you another one.
Speak, y'all. Yes,
I didn't cuss, but you said you're another one.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
Do you think Yahweh's stupid? Well, Yahweh, it didn't come out my mouth. What came out your heart?
Uh-oh.
Are you doing Yahweh a favor by not saying the word? But look what Paul said. Paul covered it. Look what he said right here. It's interesting. Look what he said right here. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourselves. Never be lacking in zeal, but keep your spirit fervor, serving Yahweh. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Share with Yahweh's people who are in need.
Hallelujah.
Practice hospitality. Now look at 14. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse.
Hallelujah.
Well, Yahweh saved me. No, he saved me because he bridled my tongue. Before I was saved, I used to cuss like a sailor. So what you cussing there, like a Coast Guard? Or maybe the Army.
All right.
I cuss like the Marines now. If you cuss, you cuss.
That's right.
Is that right?
Amen.
Hallelujah.
Them words ain't go nowhere.
All right.
What suppresses those words and keep them at bay? The word.
Hallelujah.
Yahweh don't take no helmet, hold over top of your head. You better not come out your mouth with that MF stuff.
All right.
Your heart says, shut up. Shut up. Lend yourself to what? Over to the Spirit.
Hallelujah.
Because who's talking right there? The Spirit. And what Spirit am I talking? I'm talking about the Ruach HaKodesh, because he's in you, leading you and guiding you into what? If he tell you to shut up, that means shut up. But sometimes the flesh can be strong, you know.
Hallelujah.
Don't let it be husband and wife getting in an argument. Don't let that happen. And husbands, take that scripture out of context. Where it tell you to submit yourself to me. Yeah, it does. Also tell you to submit yourself to her too. Will you slap yourself? Will you hit yourself?
All right.
Come on now.
Will you call yourself everything but a child of Yahweh?
Come on.
Will you curse at yourself?
Preach.
Would you slap yourself around?
Look out.
Well, she the weaker vessel. She need to learn how to shut her mouth up. I feel real sorry for these little men who marry these big women. Because you better be careful who you hit. You got some women out here beat a man, beat him every way but loose.
Amen.
Put a whooping under he'll never ever forget.
There you go.
I know I'm preaching.
Amen.
All right.
Tough, but it's right.
And then come to church on Sunday morning. Love one another.
That's right.
Husband sitting beside you with a black eye.
That's right. He's still together.
Somebody asked you, bro, what happened? Oh, I ran into the door. You ran into a door, all right. You ran into the old lady's fist. That's what you ran into.
He's still together.
Preach, sir.
Yeah.
Be in church and you see brothers come to church with a moonshine on the side of their head. You know what a moonshine is, Sister Belcher? Oh, you know what a moonshine is. Come out with that lie again. What man? What happened? You grabbed big knife, man. Accident on the job, bro. Accident on the job, all right. What happened last night was that skillet, that black skillet found its way upside your head.
Those were frying pan.
But y'all still together.
Yeah, it's still together.
And the reason you still together through the frying pans, through the cursing, through all the name calling, through the hitting and abusing and all of those things that you go through. Some of these marriages that have gone down through the years, some of these ladies and men can write some books. And talk about how you work through all of these problems and just the process of why you're still together.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's the same thing with walking this life with Yahweh.
Oh, yeah.
Satan gonna try everything in his power to get you out of step with your relationship with Yahweh.
That's right.
Amen.
Hallelujah.
And the first place he's gonna start is in the home.
Hallelujah.
Now,
That's right.
Second place he's gonna start is in the church.
All right.
y'all too.
And see, here's why the teaching and the preaching has to be so specific.
Come on.
We can't afford to slander one another. We can't afford to talk about one another.
That's right. Gee.
We can't afford to gossip about one another.
Hallelujah. All right.
That fertile ground don't belong to Yahweh, it belongs to the devil.
Come on.
And that's where he does his work. When people start dreading to come to service, that's a sad state of affairs. Well, why you don't want to go to church today? Man, I get so tired of sister so-and-so or brother so-and-so. They're always looking at me like I done something wrong, or they're always talking about me, all yada, yada, yada. And you think about the drama in the church.
It's something. It's something.
The drama
Oh, yeah.
in the church.
Amen.
Satan keeping something going. And how can you have love and respect for one another when the scripture tells you when you love somebody, you extend them above yourself?
Oh, yeah.
So if I truly love you, I'm not going to talk about you.
Amen.
If I truly love you, I don't have to worry about you being a hypocrite on Sunday. Smiling in my face, hugging me, love you, bro. And Monday and Tuesday running me down.
Preach.
Church is a hospital.
Preach.
It's a place to clean up. It's a place to get the baggage, all that baggage that you carry around. It's a place to get it all out of there.
Hallelujah.
The word gonna clean you up.
Hallelujah.
You either gonna come clean or stay away dirty.
Amen.
That's right.
There is no way we can love one another. See, here's what the word says. Here's what it says. Do not be proud, but be willing to associate with people of lower position.
That's right.
Do not be conceited. You know, a conceited person is one that I just can't stand. I can't stand a conceited person.
All right.
I don't even like to be in the presence of a conceited person.
We got pride.
I know everything. I created everything.
Amen.
I am so smart. I'm so smart that I get upset with myself. I'm so smart. I ask myself when I look in the mirror, oh, you so good looking. It's a shame that you just that good looking.
We got Donald Trump.
Conceited.
Amen.
Yahweh takes these fools and he shows them. He pulls them down. When I think about Yahweh speaking through an ass, I said it, an ass.
That's right.
Not a donkey, an ass.
Hallelujah.
Pastor, he was cussing this morning. Did you hear it? You heard it? He said it 2 times. Up there cussing in the pulpit. I heard it. They got, Sister Kim got it on tape.
It was a spirit.
The scripture called it a ass. Know what the word said. And Yahweh took a donkey, for those of you who can't handle the other word, and spoke out of it.
That's right.
The donkey talked. Plain. And here the part is, some of y'all don't know, the donkey spoke in Hebrew.
All right. All right. Not me.
Okay. Hallelujah.
Now imagine a donkey speaking in Hebrew. Y'all trying to just deal with the English. Spoke to him in Hebrew. And you think about what Pastor E's talking about today. Before I finish, let me take you to a beautiful, beautiful passage. Psalms 34. Let's go there. I don't know if it was Ella Green or whoever it was that recited this psalm. Somebody recited this psalm. I thought somebody recited this song at one time. May have been Ella Maven, I'm not sure.
No.
Let's look at this psalm. David, a chief musician. And there are some passages that I'm going to read that many of you have said in the past over the years in your spiritual walk and probably never knew where they came from. But you heard somebody else saying. See if you hear anything this morning that's familiar. I will exalt Yahweh at all times. His praises will always be on my lips. My translation is a little different than yours. My soul will boast in Yahweh. Let the afflicted hear and rejoice. Edify Yahweh with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought Yahweh, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame. This poor man called, and Yahweh heard him. You may have in your scriptures this poor man cried. He saved him out of all of his troubles. The angel of Yahweh encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. Taste and see that Yahweh is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Fear Yahweh, you his believers, for those who fear him lack nothing.
Hallelujah.
The lions may grow weak and hungry, but those who seek Yahweh lack no good thing. Come, my children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of Yahweh. Whoever of you loves life and desires to see many good days, keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking lies. Turn from evil and do what? And do good.
Yes.
Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of Yahweh are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. Have you heard anything? Have you heard anything yet that you know? The face of Yahweh is against those who do evil, to cut the memory of them from the earth. The righteous cry out, and Yahweh hears them.
Oh, yes.
He delivers them from all their troubles. Yahweh is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. A righteous man may have many troubles, but Yahweh delivers him from them all. He protects all of his bones. Not one of them will be broken. Even evil will slay the wicked. The foes of the righteous will be condemned. And finally, Yahweh redeems his servants. No one will be condemned who takes refuge in him.
Amen.
Loving and respecting one another
Hallelujah.
above ourselves. This week, let's do some good.
Hallelujah.
It may start today. Yahweh minister and speak to you. Consider somebody this week above yourself.
Amen.
May Yahweh bless you. May heaven smile upon you. Hope you receive something from the word of Yahweh today. Let's give Yahweh a praise. Hallelujah. Man, the service is in the hands of Bishop. Okay, he said he's good. I trust this morning that you have received something helpful this week that you will take with you and certainly apply to your spiritual walk. Let's do some good. Ella Green.
Let us all stand with uplifted hands. Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as Yahweh, for Yahshua's sake, has forgiven you. Let the assembly say, Hallelujah! Hallelujah! Shalom.
Shalom.